Okay, we'll move ahead with the class. We're continuing to talk about teachings from the Bailey works. I want to say Bailey, through whom the master DK or Dwal Kul transmitted a tremendous amount of knowledge. And he spoke about the formation of groups that are similar to what we're trying to create. And so we're taking his teachings on group initiations and trying to apply them. And what they are, they're kind of teachings that fine tune our thinking so that an actual molecular relationship or group initiation can take place. When I first read about group initiation, I kind of had the wrong idea about it. I thought it was kind of like an individual initiation, but on closer examination, it's going to be quite a bit different than an individual initiation, in that it will take the group to a place that an individual cannot go to by himself. And it will transmit the group into almost as if they are not a group anymore, but a larger entity of which they are all a part.
A greater one life.
Right. And he says that it'll be so transformative that it will regenerate the earth. And he anticipates it appearing or getting perfected enough to have power by he says the middle of this century, which would be around 2050. But those of us that are aging are hoping that we can speed that up a little, but so we can experience it while we're still in the mortal realm.
Well, you're going to live to be 120, so.
Yeah, I could live to be 100 and 2050, I'll be 105. That's a possibility. I anticipate living to be 100 at least. But you never know. I haven't got any guarantee written anywhere. But I anticipate a few good years left. How about you, Curtis? How long do you think you're going to live?
Ageless. I don't see an end.
300?
I don't see
know
it.
You're talking. It's funny, Curtis used to stop people or if we're in a restaurant and he starts talking to somebody, he says, how'd you like to live to be 300 years old? You would begin a conversation with a stranger that way, and I thought it was kind of funny. But
I did that when I lived in Seattle. I would walk up to people and I would say, look, I have in my hand a red pill. If you take this pill, you'll live to be 300 in good health. Would you take the pill? Here it is. It would be an M&M. And about half of the people would take it and half of them wouldn't. The ones that didn't were, they were like the born again Christians that wanted to die and go be with Jesus. But it's amazing, the limitations of the human mind.
Well, a lot of people are so unhappy with their lives, they don't want to live very long.
That's why they don't believe in reincarnation. They don't want to come back and experience this life again.
And that's the reason a lot of people reject reincarnation is their life is so miserable, they don't want to come back.
Yeah.
So they want there just to be one life. Okay, we're going to go over some statements he made pertaining to the perfection of a group so that they can experience what he calls this group initiation experience. And the group initiation is basically when the group gets so much in harmony with the spiritual realm, that the barriers between heaven and earth are eliminated. Heaven and earth will come together in the consciousness of that group. And he says this will be a foreshadowing of the eventual coming together of heaven and earth for the whole planet. He says eventually that is eventually what the goal is, for it to happen for throughout the planet. He says the problem of group initiation must be, I know, one of difficulty for you to consider. Many questions must naturally arise. Can, for instance, the faults of a disciple keep the group back from initiation? The answer is what?
Yeah.
No, he says no.
No?
No. The result of the dominant shortcomings of members of the group being prepared for initiation only serves to eliminate them from the group temporarily, but as it does not hold the group back. Okay, so in other words, he says if you have members that aren't ready, he says they need to be disassociated with the group, but they won't hold the group back, but they won't be part of it going forward. Okay.
So then if they were a part of the group, they would hold the group back.
Right. And he talks about that later on, not here, but later on, he says that just one member of the group, if he has an emotional problem of some kind, he says it can affect the whole group, and it needs to be dealt with. That problem needs to be diffused. And if it's impossible to diffuse it, then he needs to separate from the group. And the Tibetan had this problem with the group that he started with. He attempted to take a group into the point where they could have a group initiation, and he started with 50 people. And then he eliminated quite a few of them, and then he got down to 24, and he tried to create a group of 24 to have a group initiation, and some of them fizzled out, went down to 18, and then he finally made the statement that there was only 6 that was really qualified for what he wanted to do. So
I remember reading that. Where is that found? I don't have it written down. Where he's had
I have the part of the 24 and 18. I couldn't find the quote where he talked about the final 6. I have to make a note of that next time I read it. But I remember him talking about 6.
Yeah, I remember that.
You remember reading that too? That was only really usable.
Down, he refined them all and down until he had pure gold, and even they were difficult to work with, but were usable.
Okay, so let's read this over a little bit. So the answer is no. A person not qualified doesn't hold the group back, but the group being prepared for initiation only serves to eliminate them from the group temporarily. But it says it does not hold the group back, but it says temporarily. But if the person is not ready, he says he will come back in a future life and will be ready at another future time. So if those who are not ready in this life, doesn't mean they're shut out completely. Eventually they can get ready later in life or a future life.
Yeah, but I think people that aren't ready just naturally disassociate themselves with the group.
Well, that's what I found overall. They just get frustrated and remove themselves. And I think that's happened when the Tibetan had his group. I think most of them, I don't think he says you're no longer a member. I think they just dropped out when they, and a lot of the reason they did drop out was he gave them instructions that they needed to make corrections in their life. And he wasn't a sharp criticizer, but he would say, well, these are steps that you need to take. And they didn't want to take those steps. And so they complained, well, that wasn't real Tibetan that talked. That was just Alice A. Bailey, because Alice A. Bailey doesn't like me. So they made these excuses and they got irritated and quit, some of them, because they did not want to take the instructions the Tibetan was giving them. He says the group moves forward through the door when all the necessary eliminations have taken place. So, these eliminations have to be done carefully. It's best if they eliminate themselves, because if the leader of a group says, well, Jack here, he's not ready, so we're going to have to excommunicate him. Well, how's Jack going to feel? He's going to be mad and become an enemy to the group, and he's going to raise as much hell as he can. So, you look at groups that have manifested in the past, you always have a certain amount of conflict, and it's difficult to get to have a group where everybody in the group is positive and stays positive and focused on the spirit. It's a Herculean task, and this is one of the reasons that Tibetan says that the hierarchy itself has tried numerous times to create a group of mortal beings that are capable of group initiation, and they have failed each time. He says that it's extremely difficult to do, especially with the first one. And so it's going to be very difficult because of the emotional feelings that get in the way of people's progress.
Yeah, people that are emotionally polarized won't belong. You have to go to the higher mind to even grasp the concept of the molecular order. I mean, we've had how many hundreds of people since in the last 20 years that have come and gone. Now we have a group of 9, which is a good number. It's a number of gestation. But and there are others out there that on the sidelines that are interested. But how many could really hang on to this centrifugal fusion is.
Yeah, the principle of enduring to the end is important. And, that's a statement that Jesus made several times that kind of hasn't got a lot of attention. Whosoever endures to the end shall be saved. And it's more accurately rendered, whosoever endures to the consummation of the goal will be delivered, will be successful, you could say.
Well, that's us.
The group moves forward through the door when all the necessary eliminations have taken place, and also when the group has developed certain capacities as a whole and mutually. Let me specify some of these capacities, but without going into detail. Now, he kind of gave a similar rundown earlier when he started the group years earlier. And we went through that in a previous class. And now this is one he gives after he's worked with the group and personally experienced all the difficulties. So this is worded a little bit different than the last one. And so he goes into detail certain capacities that the group members must have as a whole and also individually. So not only Asaf needs to attain these capacities, but the group as a whole does, and each individual in the group. Number 1, the capacity to be outward looking and interested in the reactions of life and of events upon humanity. Now, one of the problems with a lot of spiritual groups is they try to withdraw from the world and go within and meditate and act as if the world doesn't exist. But DK says no, that this isn't what a group does that wants to be ready for group initiation. He says they have to be outward looking, which is kind of an interesting statement. Outward looking. Where have you heard a teacher to say, hey, we need to be outward looking? They're almost all the teachers say, hey, we need to go within and find God within, which is true, but that's only half of the equation. We also need to look outward and be interested in the reactions of life and of the events upon humanity. Okay, the reactions of life, reactions of your own life, the reactions of how people are reacting to things in the media, and say how, when we look at things today, how are people reacting to the war, to politics, to the teachers that are out there, to the economy? How are people reacting to all this? Okay, they need to pay attention to the reactions of life and the events upon humanity. All these outward events have a spiritual, symbolic meaning. And one of the reasons this is important is the group, as it develops, this group initiation and linking of heaven and earth, will have power through deep meditation to be able to send vibrations of cooperation out to influence people toward the path of peace rather than war. K2, the steady tendency toward decentralization so that the personal self is handled with a just sense of proportion, but is not regarded as the dominant factor in daily life. Okay, we need to have a tendency toward decentralization. In other words, the typical group will have an authoritarian leader, and this authoritarian leader is the one that tells everybody what to think and what to believe. So this decentralization, with this, the disciple leans more on his own soul as his great authority. And a leader or a teacher may say some really good stuff, but it needs to be verified by the soul. And this creates a decentralization where the authority is, the greatest authority comes from your inner confirmation. 3, as a result of this decentralization, the aspirant grows increasingly toward a more complete fusion with the group. He knows himself to be an integral part of the group with all that such a relationship involves. So with a regular group, they give glory and attention to the leader. And when it's decentralized, then they give attention to everybody in the group. We look to Johan, Rulina, Marnie, and we feel and spiritual communion with them as much as you do me or any one that you consider a leader in the group. So we will all receive a greater inner connection because we look upon each other more as equals rather than one authority over another. 4, he is becoming every day more integrated. This integration is a fourfold one. First, he says his personality in its various aspects is integrated into one functioning whole. What do you think that means? Your personality is integrated into one functioning whole. Now, your personality is the self that you present to the world. And for most people, the personality is scattered. They're interested in all kinds of things, all kinds of direction. They want to get a new house, new car, new relationship. But here, the personality, the lower self, is seen as an integral part, but just one part that's dedicated to fulfilling the mission of the higher self, which is dedicated to spirit and oneness. The second, he is achieving a pronounced relationship with the soul, and for this reason is becoming a soul-infused personality. Okay, what does it mean, soul-infused personality? Let's pick on somebody here. Ed, what's a soul-infused personality to you?
When my soul, my mind, my brain, and my sense of self are all one.
Yeah,
I am that soul here and now.
right. Okay, that's good as explanation as any. So, and this is something we've stressed a lot to focus not so much on the lower personality, but on the soul, and bring the soul down and blend with the personality so the lower self is under the control of the higher nature. And the biggest evidence that this has taken place is the ability of the disciple to eliminate all grievance. So no one has the power to offend you. It's interesting that Jesus offended so many people, he made this statement, which is one of my favorite statements that he made. He said, "Blessed is he who is not offended in me." So he just went around offending everybody. And that so many people were offended, he made that statement. As a worker, see, it says, as a worker for humanity, he is blending always more closely with the group in training and is becoming an integral part of it through the similarity of aims, spiritual aspiration, and trained techniques. Okay, so he's blending and becomes closer and closer with the people in the group. And the group we have here overall is very close to each other. We understand each other. We kind of know how everybody thinks. And even though somebody may not think exactly like you, we still love them and accept them. And so we're headed the right direction, at least.
Where are you reading? Are you in Raised in Initiations?
No, this is from Discipleship in the New Age. I was thinking it was volume 2. It says volume 1, page 23, but I'm not sure. I'll make sure I get that reference for you, but I think
In Raised in Initiations, he talked excessively about decentralization, same going on in a different way.
yeah.
It's interesting.
Okay, so I think I might have lost my next page. I think. Okay, anyway, I'll continue here. He is slowly integrated into the very heart of humanity. This puts him in touch with the heart of the hierarchy. Through the hierarchy, energies from the heart of the sun can reach him. Okay. So this, an important aspect of this group quality that is needed is a sensitivity or a feeling integrated into the heart of humanity. The disciple must have a sense of love toward humanity as a whole. And this is where there's a lot of groups out there that just despise humanity. Have you heard a lot of people kind of associated with the New Age movement talk about humanity being a virus on the earth? Have any of you heard that statement before? Yeah. What do you think about that, Rain? Are we a virus on the earth, or are we here to benefit the earth?
Oh, we're absolutely here to benefit the earth. We're here to experience.
Right. And even in the Bible, it says when God created Adam, he's give Adam, go tend to the garden and make it better. And that's basically what humanity is put here for. And we've made mistakes. We've done things to make things worse. But when you work on a project, you always make mistakes before you achieve perfection. Look at Elon Musk trying to perfect his rockets. They keep blowing up on him. But then after they blow up a few times, he gets it perfected. His last one, the Falcon rockets, they've launched hundreds of times now, and they're functioning perfectly. But boy, when he first started trying to perfect them, they were blowing up like crazy, and everybody's making fun of him and saying, boy, he's not going to go anywhere. And they're doing the same thing with his Starship now. It's blown up several times. It had problems with it, but he'll get it perfected. Humanity is a little that way. We're put here to make the earth into a much better place. But in that process, starting out, we don't know what we're doing, so we make a lot of mistakes, but we eventually learn from them. Sometimes it looks like we are not learning. And have you heard people say that, boy, this is the wickedest the earth has ever been? Have you heard people say that, Rain?
Yeah, but I don't think it's true.
No, it isn't true when you think about it. Well, just look back in the days of Jesus. You know what the average lifespan was in the days of Jesus? Let's pick on Asaph. Do you know what it was, Asaph?
I suppose 40 something,
About 30
About
something. About 30.
36,
26.
Yeah.
26?
Yeah. Why was it so low?
And Jesus
Because
was an old
death
man.
rates of infants, death rate of children, and because of disease.
That was part of it. They didn't have the cures we have today, but a large part of it was so many people were killed in war. I mean, almost everybody had to participate as a soldier one time or another and defend themselves. And a lot of people were just killed in their youth, when they're in their 20s. A lot of the men, anyway. And of course, a lot of the women were too. And so, boy, we've made a lot of progress in that way. We're more peaceable to the extent that we're living longer. One of the reasons we're living longer, which is kind of amusing, is dental health. Boy, in the old days, you get an abscess in your tooth, you get an infection and often kill people. Nowadays, we have dentists can take care of problems that are simple today, but were deadly in the past. So, and we get we have a lot more abundance today. You know, that people complain about the poverty throughout the planet, but the poverty has gone way down throughout the planet. There's not nearly as high a percentage of poor people now as there was in the days of Jesus, or even 100 years ago. And then pollution, we kind of went crazy with not thinking the earth could absorb all the pollution we would throw at it, and we come into the conclusion, hey, we need to be more careful and take care of ourselves, have clean water, clean air. And now the big thing we're into is the going back to natural farming techniques, where we're not implanting a bunch of chemicals in our soil and things like this. We're learning, and eventually the Tibetan says that the human kingdom will be the savior of the planet, and also the savior of the animal kingdom. He says the animals really have it kind of tough out there. In the wintertime, you know, they freeze to death and don't have anything to eat half the time. They spend half their time almost in starvation. And we will be able to assist them and make life a lot better for the animal kingdom. Okay. Any comments or questions of what we've talked about before we close? And next week, Adam is going to comment on a couple DK quotes on the molecule that he found, all being well. So that ought to be interesting.
Also, there is the question I raised about protection measures for the molecule.
Yeah, one of the most important ones will be the Song of the 144,000. This will help. The others is that Jesus gave several hints on this. He says, be as harmless as doves, but wise as serpents. And he told you to even make friends with your enemies to a degree. And the Tibetan talks about this also. And he says one of the big problems that disciples do that creates tremendous problems for them is they pose themselves as a threat to people that can harm them. He says the disciple must be very careful about this and not pose himself as a threat to the powers that be, not back down from anything, but not go out of your way to pose yourself as a threat. It's a little bit like these movies that you watch. The good guy confronts the bad guy and he says, well, I'm going to put you in jail and expose you and do this and that. And the bad guy says, oh, are you going to do that? Okay. He pulls out a gun and he says, I'm going to shoot you then. So you don't want to do that to the bad guy. You know, present yourself as harmless as a dove as you move along with your work on the path of light. So eventually we create a stable foundation that cannot be destroyed, but it must be done with wisdom. You just can't go threaten the beast out there with say, we are going to destroy you. And and if you say that, the beast will seek to destroy you first. So anyway, that's a few words of wisdom there. So
well, I think we have to have a higher vision. Like I always say, climb higher in the tree and see that it's all a play working out. And the will of God is working out. And these are the elements of it working out that we're seeing.
yeah. And pay attention to what's going on and do our best to guide everything in the right direction. Okay, my friends, we will see you next week, next Sunday at 2 p.m. Mountain Time and whatever your time is. Until then, may the
Easter
Spirit be
Sunday
with
next
you.
Sunday?
What's that?
Is Easter next Sunday?
I don't know, is it? Let me look.
Yeah, we may be coloring our eggs.
Palm Sunday is next Sunday.
When's
When-
Easter?
When is Easter?
Easter's sometime in April.
When is Easter? Oh, Easter is on the 5th of April.
Okay, it's down the road.
So Palm Sunday is next Sunday. I don't think that's going to interfere with anybody.
No, so Easter is on Sunday, 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Excellent.
my friends, we will see you with the next Sunday afternoon then.
And we're all joined together in spirit.
You bet.
The
And
union
may
of
the
soul.
Spirit be with you.
Amen.